Hey, good evening, everybody. Blitzball Champ is back here with a new video on the U to the Tube. So, just finished watching Impact Wrestling Rebellion pay-per-view, and I just wanted to take some time to go back through and just give my thoughts on it. This was actually a pay-per-view I enjoyed. I actually enjoyed this pay-per-view very much. So, there was a few surprises that took place, but for the most part, I really enjoyed this pay per view. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So we had 8 matches on the card for Impact Rebellion. Pull out my notes here. Okay, got my notes. So first, started off with the X Division Triple Threat title match, where the champion Ace Austin defended against Josh Alexander and TJP. I have to say, for this being the first match, it actually was a good match. I think all 3 wrestlers really got a chance to showcase a bunch of offense. There was even a sequence where all 3 of them were trading simultaneous submissions and reversals as well. So very technical match as well. Of course, TJP is known for high flying and technical wrestling, but I have to say was kind of a surprising outcome. I did not expect. Josh Alexander hit Divine Intervention on Ace Austin and was able to pick up the victory and become the new X Division champion. His first singles title on Impact Wrestling. Of course, everybody knows that Josh Alexander was once one half of the North with All Ego Ethan Page before he went to AEW. And they were, I believe, the longest reigning Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions. So, yeah. Josh Alexander gets his first singles title in Impact Wrestling, and I have to say, this was a great match. And it'll be interesting to see how he does as a singles champion. After the split with the North and Ethan Page eventually went to AEW, he's been a singles wrestler, and he actually did really well in this match. And I was really happy to see how this went, but didn't expect Josh Alexander to win. So, right then, first match of the night is a title change. New X Division champion, Josh Alexander. Hope he has a decent run. Didn't expect this, but I hope he has a decent run. Next, we had a 8-man tag match, which you had the members of Violent by Design going up against Chris Sabin, Eddie Edwards, Willie Mack, and James Storm. Now, originally, this match was supposed to have the members of Violent by Design, Eric Young, Diener, Joe Doering, and Rhino, but Eric Young was technically out of action. Apparently due to injury. I guess that was caused by, I think it was Eddie Edwards or something like that. I haven't really been keeping up, but he did not end up wrestling. But they had a replacement for Eric Young, and it turned out to be the 7-foot tall W. Morrissey, also known as Big Kaz. That's right. Y'all remember Big Kaz? Used to be teamed up with Enzo Amore back in WWE, and even, teamed up with Carmella as well. But, yeah. W. Morrissey is in Impact Wrestling, and he teamed up with Violent by Design as Eric Young's replacement in this match. And I tell you, it ended up working in their favor because Violent by Design ended up getting the victory. And like I said, we really got to see Morrissey showcased in this match, and rightfully so. But Violent by Design, I feel like the last pay per view I saw, they picked up the victory as well. So they got quite a stable. They got quite a good stable. But we still got to see a lot of the other team in action as well. Because I mean, you got to remember, James Storm pretty much is a legend in Impact Wrestling. Chris Sabin, of course. Um, Willie Mack. And Eddie Edwards. So, I mean, we got to see all four of them showcased pretty well in this match. But ultimately, it was W. Morrissey's night to shine. And he ended up hitting I believe it was the East Coast Crossing, I think they called it. But correct me if I'm wrong. Um, Hit it on Willie Mack to get the victory for Violent by Design. And although I have to say, Willie Mack with the whole red eyes thing, that's kind of weird. That's really really weird. I didn't really expect to see that. But yeah, W Morrissey got the pin and the victory for Violent by Design, and and they were able to walk away with the upper hand. And I have to say, it'll be interesting to see how W Morrissey does in Impact Wrestling. You know, I think this could turn out to be pretty big for him. I don't know if this means that he's officially joining Violent by Design, but I don't know. That might be the case. We'll have to see. But Violent by Design with the victory. Uh, we had a match between singles match between former best friends Brian Myers versus Matt Cardona. Most of you know them as Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder from back in WWE. Like I said, they have a long history, former tag team partners, and even former tag team champions as well when they were the Edgeheads, when they were partnered up with Edge, the rated R superstar. So yeah, they took on each other in this singles match, and it was an okay match. I'm not gonna say it was anything too crazy or anything that I was too hyped about, but it's between two guys that have a lot of history with each other. So I expected it to be back and forth and pretty even. Um, Matt Cardona was going to give which they call it radio silence in Impact Wrestling, which it used to be called the Rough Rider in WWE. Went to go give that in the ring to Brian Myers, and he landed awkward. It looked like he twisted his ankle or his knee or something like that. I thought it was his ankle. Well, it looks like he was grabbing hold of the knee, and the referee even threw up the X sign. And this really confused me. Like, I thought the X sign was only thrown up when somebody was really legit injured. And usually, I would think they would stop the match. And, if the person couldn't continue, they would just award the other competitor the victory. Like, I remember that's what they did when I remember watching ROH. I went to a live ROH show, and I remember it was Flip Gordon versus Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. And Flip Gordon, he landed awkward. I think it was outside of the ring apron that he landed awkward, and they threw up the X, and pretty much they had to stop the match, throw the match out. But they pretty much awarded the victory to Hot Sauce Tracy Williams. So I don't know. I just thought that you know when the ref throws up the X, that means a complete stop. Like somebody's legit hurt. But they had Brian Myers pick him up, clothesline Matt Cardona, and give him like one more running clothesline, and got the victory. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of weird. They could have gone through all that without the ref having to throw up the X. You know what I mean? They could have just kept pushing off Brian Myers until he just finally was like, screw it. Picked up Matt Cardona and then did the move. But he threw up the X. And I thought the X was supposed to be saved and only used by the ref when somebody was legit hurt and they needed to stop the match. So I thought that was kind of confusing, but I don't know. I'm just basing this off of my experience seeing live shows where I have unfortunately seen a few matches that had to be stopped because the referee threw up the X. So I don't know, but pretty much Brian Myers ended up getting the victory, despite the X. So, we had the knockout tag team titles on the line as Fire and Flava, made up of Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz, defended against Jordan Grace and the returning Rachel Ellering, who ended up bringing Jazz in to manage them. Jazz came down to be by their side ringside. And I have to say, it was good to see Rachel Ellering again. I think the last time I saw her, she was in AEW Dark. They didn't sign her, and I thought she got injured again. But I don't know. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I do remember seeing her on AEW Dark once or twice. But it was good to see Rachel Ellering back, and she looked great in this match. Her and Jordan Grace, good combination. But of course, the tag champs showcased a lot of offense, especially on Jordan Grace. They had most of the momentum through like the first half of the match and such. But when it was all said and done, Rachel Ellering got the victory for her team in the form of like, it looked like she was going for a fisherman buster, but then transitioned it into like a spine buster, which I thought was pretty neat. But yeah, she got the 1, 2, 3, and we got our second title change. New knockout tag team champions, Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering. So a big way for Rachel Ellering to return, have her first match in Impact Wrestling, and won the tag titles. So congratulations to those two. I think Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering, I think that'll be a good pairing. Two big, strong ladies. They're both power lifters. Maybe they could come up with a cool name for their tag team. But I like the combo. I remember I got a chance. I met both of these ladies. Met Jordan Grace at WrestleCade a few years ago, and I met Rachel Ellering a couple of years via Queens of Combat at GalaxyCon. Got a chance to chat with her. Really, really cool. Both ladies are really cool. But yeah, very happy for them. And I'm also, I'm happy that Tasha Steelz and Kiera Hogan got a chance to be knockout tag champs. Two ladies I've gotten to see live as well. Really cool. Through Queens of Combat as well. But yeah, good match though. Definitely good match. I enjoyed this match. Glad to see Rachel Ellering back in the ring again. Next up, we have a last man standing match between the Callahan Death Machine, Sami Callihan, going up against Trey Miguel. I was pretty surprised at this match. Of course, I knew Trey Miguel was going to take a lot of punishment in this match. He was clearly the underdog, and that he did. From getting driven onto the ring apron, power drive through a table, even though the table didn't break, power bombed onto metal crate. Yeah, and even had a dang on wrench in his mouth. Sami Callihan took a wrench and just pried it up against the mouth of Trey Miguel. I was like, man, that's just nasty. You don't know where that wrench has been. But yeah, Trey Miguel, he took a lot of punishment. But surprisingly, ended up getting the victory. Sammy Callahan at one point had Trey Miguel trapped under the steel steps, but Trey Miguel escaped through the back, came from under the ring, made it back up before the count of 10, took Sammy Callahan and pretty much gave him a running cutter through a table outside of the ring, and Sammy Callahan wasn't able to answer the 10 count in time. And Trey Miguel, with the upset victory, he is the last man standing over Sammy Callahan. So I honestly did not expect that. I really didn't. Because Trey Miguel, he took a lot of punishment in this match, which is expected. It's Sammy Callahan. So, but it was entertaining. It was definitely entertaining. Surprising outcome, but hey, I dig it. I definitely dig it. Next up, we had the Impact Wrestling Tag Team titles on the line as Finjuice, the champs, defended against the Good Brothers. And it was really good to see these two teams in action again. Both definitely put on a great match. Seeing the chemistry between these two definitely says a lot. And, I figured they were going to get their rematch after Finjuice initially dethroned the Good Brothers. But yeah, definitely enjoyed the match. The finish I felt could have been a little bit better. Pretty much a roll-up victory for Finjuice. But, I figured Finjuice were going to retain the titles. But I just felt like it could have been a better finish, personally. But overall, the match itself was pretty good. It was a pretty good match. Then next up, we had the Knockouts Championship, where Deonna Purrazzo, the champion, the Virtuosa, defended against Tenille Dashwood. This was a decent match. This was definitely a decent match. And I just thought it was kind of interesting that really Kimberly and Susan didn't really interfere until like pretty much the last bit of the match when they took out Caleb Conley. And, Tenille Dashwood had a lot of close calls. Was able to capitalize on the running corner splashes, even hit a Muda lock, even hit the spotlight kick. But, of course, when you got the numbers on your side, like Deonna Purrazzo had, you have a good chance of pretty much still walking away with the title. And, even though Tenille Dashwood was able to escape the Fujiwara armbar, it was Queen's Gambit, pretty much the neutralizer that Cesaro uses in WWE, that did end Tenille Dashwood and Deonna Purrazzo retains the Knockouts Championship. It was a pretty good match. It was a pretty decent match. Afterwards, they went to beat down on Tenille Dashwood. You had Kimberly, you had Susan, you had Deonna Purrazzo just starting to beat down on Tenille Dashwood. And then, all of a sudden, Taylor Wilde. Y'all recognize that name? Taylor Wilde, a former Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion and two-time tag team champion, returns to the Impact Zone and helps clean house of Deonna Purrazzo, Kimberly, and Susan. So it is really great to see Taylor Wilde back in Impact Wrestling. For those that don't remember, she initially dethroned Awesome Kong for her first Impact Knockouts Championship. That's right. She dethroned Awesome Kong, and of course, Awesome Kong did eventually beat her to win it back. But yeah, Taylor Wilde's a former Knockouts champion. She's also a two-time Knockouts Tag Team champion. She was her and Sarita, aka Sarah Stock, were the inaugural Impact Wrestling Knockout Tag Team champions. And then later on, Taylor Wilde won those titles again with Ayako Hamada. So she's two-time tag team champ and a one-time knockouts champ. But yeah, so good to see Taylor Wilde back in the Impact Zone. It's been forever. It's been a long, long time. It's been many years. But, she came back, she looks great. Yeah, Taylor Wilde. Gotta love it. So that was probably my favorite surprise of the night, even more than Big Cass coming to Impact Wrestling. I have to say this was my favorite surprise of the night. So, congratulations to Deonna Purrazzo on retaining, and welcome back, Taylor Wilde. And then we had the big one, the main event. Title versus title, winner takes all. Kenny Omega, the AEW World Champion, went up against the Impact Wrestling World Champion, Unified World Champion, Rich Swann. Now, this was quite a main event. There was a lot of build up to this. The build up was great, and it got to this point. This was a very intense match, as expected. A lot of action, even from both competitors. Rich Swann he must have eaten like at least a good 13 V triggers in this match alone. At least 13. I didn't keep count all the way, but there had to have been at least 13 V triggers in this whole match. 13 or more. Just knocked Rich Swann loopy. And Rich Swann had a lot of close calls as well, near pinfalls. Really brought it to Kenny Omega with a lot of the strikes. Reversed the Kitaro Crusher, which was really cool how he reversed that. And Rich Swann doing Rich Swann flippy stuff. Went for the Phoenix Splash twice, never could hit it. Did get a high octane frog splash, but no 3 count. It was only a 2 count. But Kenny Omega rolled out of the way of both Phoenix Splash attempts. Of course, Kenny Omega attempted the one-winged angel 3 times, was able to... technically... Yeah, 3 times, because one was a avalanche version, but it was the 3rd attempt that did Rich Swann in after the umpteenth V trigger, and Kenny Omega is now your new Impact Wrestling Unified World Champion, and he has the AEW World Championship as well. That's right, all those belts. Not to mention, this main event was called by former NXT commentary, Mauro Ranallo. So it was really good to see him call this. And of course, he did what he does best. But Rich Swann gave it a great effort. But let's be honest. We all knew Kenny Omega was going to win this. He's established that he was going to be the belt collector. And with Don Callis on his side, who is pretty much a big part of Impact Wrestling, you can't be too surprised of the outcome. A part of me was a little bit hopeful for Rich Swann, but let's be honest. He wasn't going to beat Kenny Omega. It just wasn't going to happen. So... was still an excellent match. It was a great, great, great main event, but we all knew Kenny Omega was going to win. Now the only thing going forward is what next? I mean, we're going to see Kenny Omega back in AEW with all that gold. And the thing is, let's also remember, he's also the AAA World Champion from back in Mexico. I believe he still has that title. So he has that, the Impact Wrestling World Unified Championship, and the AEW World Championship. So that's 3 belts right there. Kenny Omega, the belt collector. This looks like this is going to be a thing. Who knows what's going to happen next? Maybe next stop, New Japan Pro Wrestling. But I hope that's not the case. You know, Will Ospreay just became IWGP heavyweight champion, and I want him to hold on to that for at least a while, at least a good while. But we'll have to see what happens with Kenny Omega and even with Rich Swann after losing the title. But I have to say though, lately we've been seeing, a lot of Kenny Omega on Impact more so than any of the other Impact wrestlers coming on to AEW. So that's the only thing I feel like that's been lacking with this partnership, relationship, whatever you want to call this. So I don't know. I think it'd be nice to see some Impact wrestlers make some appearances on AEW. I mean, even if it was on AEW Dark or Elevation or Dynamite, it would probably be best if it was on Dynamite. But I mean, I think we should see more of that. But let's also keep in mind, you got AEW's Double or Nothing coming up in May. That's their next up and coming pay-per-view. So maybe we could see it then. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this pay-per-view. This was a pretty good pay-per-view. Got to see a few surprises. W. Morrissey, aka Big Cass, back coming to the Impact Zone. Rachel Ellering has her first match, wins the Knockout Tag Team titles with Jordan Grace. Taylor Wilde returns to Impact. I hadn't seen Taylor Wilde in forever, so that's a big deal. But overall, good pay-per-view. Impact Rebellion was a good pay-per-view. I enjoyed it. But yeah, that's pretty much all that I have. What did y'all think? Did y'all enjoy Impact Rebellion? What did y'all think of the outcomes? What did y'all think of the title changes? What do y'all think is going to happen next with Kenny Omega now that he has all the gold now? What's going to happen with Rich Swann? But yeah, and I just thought it was really interesting. You had a lot of eyes on this main event. I mean, you had Scott D'Amore viewing, you had Mauro Ranallo as the guest commentator, you had Don Callis and the Good Brothers there, you had the AEW folks there, you had Tony Khan, Tony Schiavone, you had Jerry Lynn. They even had 2 referees for this match. You had both Brian Hebner and Aubrey Edwards for this match. So a lot of eyes were on this main event. And there was a lot of hype and excitement built towards this main event. There's a lot of people out there that really just ordered the pay-per-view just for this main event. So, but yeah. Overall, let me know what y'all think. If y'all enjoyed this or not, and just let me know what your thoughts are. Like, comment, subscribe, click that notification bell so you don't miss a video. And thank y'all so much for watching. This is Blitzball Champ signing off for another YouTube video. And hope everybody has a blessed week, and I will see y'all very soon. Take care. Motor City.